Stop everything, because Hollywood insiders are whispering about a divorce twist involving Nicole Kidman so explosive, it's leaving even veteran lawyers stunned. Rumors claim a hidden clause, one so emotionally loaded, so unusual, and so powerful that it could change the way celebrity marriages are handled forever. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the $525 million shockwave shaking Hollywood, and trust me, once you hear this, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about celebrity love stories. Shocking. Unbelievable. Almost impossible to imagine. Those were the exact words echoing through Hollywood the moment whispers began circulating about Nicole Kidman's jaw-dropping $525 million divorce revelation and the mysterious, almost mythical, contract twist hidden deep within the legal paperwork. The kind of clause that makes even seasoned Hollywood lawyers pause and double-check the fine print. But before the world even knew what was happening, insiders revealed that the tension hadn't appeared overnight. It had been quietly building for years behind closed doors. Nicole, known for her elegance, poise, and nearly untouchable public image, had kept everything under wraps. To the outside world, her life seemed flawless, as if she were untouched by the struggles, heartbreaks, or the complicated machinery of fame. Yet that silence, as perfectly controlled as her red carpet appearances, became its own kind of mystery, one that only added to the growing speculation. Then suddenly she spoke. Not on the cover of a glossy tabloid. Not through a dramatic, media-frenzied press conference. Instead, she chose a rare, carefully measured moment to open up. In that small but powerful conversation, Nicole finally hinted at what insiders had suspected all along, that her marriage, her wealth, and her future had at one point hinged on a single legal clause so unusual, so unexpected, that even Hollywood veterans, people who've seen every twist, turn, and scandal the industry could offer, found themselves stunned. What was this clause? Why did it exist in the first place? And most importantly, how did it ultimately shape one of the most influential and talked about divorce settlements in Hollywood history? For a star who has built a career on meticulous precision and careful image management, revealing this small but seismic detail was nothing short of revolutionary. It wasn't a dramatic accusation. It wasn't a scandalous betrayal meant to shock. Instead, it was a quiet acknowledgement of the complicated reality that even someone as seemingly untouchable as Nicole Kidman could not escape the human, emotional, and financial intricacies of marriage. Hollywood thrives on rumors and speculation, but this particular revelation carried weight far beyond the usual gossip columns. For years, Nicole had maintained an almost mythical aura, a symbol of grace, professionalism, and sophistication. And yet, here was proof that beneath the flawless exterior, there had been layers of negotiation, compromise, and legal maneuvering designed to protect not just wealth, but personal well-being and emotional stability. It was this very clause, buried deep in her legal documents, almost invisible to outsiders, that became the focal point of discussion across the entertainment world. Some called it groundbreaking, others called it strange, but everyone agreed on one thing: it had changed everything. The clause didn't just impact the settlement of assets. It influenced timing, decisions, and ultimately, the way one of Hollywood's most powerful women navigated a deeply personal crossroads. And so, the story begins, not with scandal, but with intrigue. Not with gossip, but with a quiet, almost imperceptible power. The power of one clause, hidden in plain sight, capable of reshaping fortunes, relationships, and the way we view celebrity life behind the glitz and glamour. To truly understand the twist behind Nicole Kidman's jaw-dropping divorce revelation, we need to take a step back and examine the world she stepped into the moment she became a global superstar. Because the Hollywood we see on the red carpet, filled with flashing cameras, glamorous premieres, and magazine covers, is only the surface of a much more intricate, high-stakes machine. Behind every smile, every public appearance, and every carefully choreographed moment lies an army of professionals. Lawyers, agents, publicists, and financial advisors, all working to protect a celebrity's reputation, income, and, most importantly, legacy. For Nicole, by the time she reached the pinnacle of her career, she wasn't just an actress. She was an empire. Every film she starred in, every endorsement she signed, every investment she made was carefully calculated to expand that empire. And that meant that any marriage involving her could never be just a private, romantic union. In Hollywood, her relationships carried not only emotional weight but corporate weight, intertwining personal lives with multi-million-dollar financial arrangements and intricate legal agreements. Insiders say that the original marriage agreement Nicole entered contained everything a typical celebrity prenup might include: financial protections, detailed asset divisions, clauses dictating earnings and royalties, and even confidentiality terms designed to prevent personal matters from leaking to the media. On paper, it read like a standard precaution, a necessary shield for anyone living life at the center of the entertainment world's intense scrutiny. But here's where it gets fascinating, and where Hollywood gossip really sparks. According to those familiar with the case, what eventually stunned everyone was not the prenup itself. It wasn't the protections for properties, earnings, or investments. What truly left insiders stunned was an add-on clause that was added years later. Unlike the original agreement, this clause wasn't about money, assets, or public image. It was designed to activate under very specific emotional and psychological conditions that most people would never even imagine putting into a legal contract. This was not a scandalous clause. It wasn't about infidelity, misbehavior, or misconduct. It didn't assign blame or outline penalties for broken promises. Instead, it was something far more human and far more personal. It acknowledged, in a way that legal language rarely does, that emotions, mental well-being, and the stability of a relationship could be just as important as financial considerations. In Hollywood, where personal feelings are often treated like liabilities and emotions are something to be managed, hidden, or exploited, this clause was unprecedented. For a legal document to recognize the fragility of human relationships, especially at the center of fame and fortune, was nothing short of shocking. It suggested a level of foresight and emotional intelligence rarely seen in celebrity contracts. This clause didn't just protect Nicole legally, it created a mechanism to address the emotional reality of marriage itself. It was a quiet but powerful acknowledgement that even in a world obsessed with appearances and money, human connection, vulnerability, and emotional health could not, and should not, be ignored. And that, insiders say, is what ultimately made this hidden clause the most talked about part of her divorce. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't scandalous. But in Hollywood, it was revolutionary. So, what was this mysterious, almost legendary clause that had Hollywood buzzing? Officially, it was referred to in legal circles as the stability provision. But among insiders, gossiping quietly in hotel lobbies and private meetings, it earned a far more evocative nickname, the emotional wellness clause. And the reason it drew so much attention is simple: it didn't deal with money, property, or publicity. Instead, it addressed something almost unimaginable in Hollywood contracts: the emotional health of the people involved. The clause outlined a radical approach. It stated that if the marriage ever reached a point where the emotional well-being of either party began deteriorating to a harmful degree, both partners were legally required to follow a very specific protocol. First, all legal disputes would be paused immediately. Any pending lawsuits, filings, or court motions would be temporarily frozen. Second, all financial negotiations would be put on hold: no transfers, no settlements, no sudden moves to claim assets. And finally, the couple would enter a mandatory 90-day reconciliation and wellness period. During these 90 days, the couple wasn't just sitting idly by. They were required to participate in therapy sessions, attend private retreats designed to heal communication and trust, and engage in mediated discussions to address lingering conflicts. Most importantly, there would be a complete media blackout. No leaks, no public statements, no paparazzi-fueled speculation. This clause essentially forced the couple to step away from the chaos of fame and fortune and confront their relationship in a protected, private space. No sudden divorces filed at dawn. No financial threats hanging over their heads. No courtroom drama leaking to social media. This wasn't a clause built around money, assets, or legal leverage. It was built around one revolutionary idea: that relationships deserve a last, honest chance before collapsing completely. And in Hollywood, a world where marriages are often treated as business deals and personal connections can be exploited for headlines, this was unheard of. The very notion that emotional and mental stability could take precedence over contracts, settlements, and strategic advantage left everyone talking. But the story becomes even more fascinating. According to sources, this clause activated during the divorce proceedings themselves. Instead of an immediate legal battle, the couple was forced to step back, confront the realities of their union, and navigate the dissolution of their marriage in a far more structured and emotionally conscious way. The legal process slowed down. The negotiations changed. And the balance of power shifted, not through lawyers or accountants, but through the simple human recognition of emotional well-being. In other words, the divorce didn't hinge purely on assets, properties, or financial settlements. It hinged on a clause that made both parties confront the emotional weight of their shared history before any final signatures were placed. People whisper about this clause not because it involved money or scandal, but because it fundamentally challenged Hollywood's understanding of power, fame, and personal relationships. In an industry obsessed with control and appearances, the emotional wellness clause was a quiet rebellion, a recognition that even in a world dominated by wealth and influence, human emotion cannot be ignored. It was radical, it was groundbreaking, and it left insiders asking the same question over and over. Could this change the way Hollywood thinks about marriage, divorce, and emotional responsibility forever? When the emotional wellness clause was triggered, everything in Hollywood seemed to freeze. Paparazzi and media outlets braced for an immediate explosion. Rumors of public confrontations, late-night filings, and legal battles were everywhere. Instead, the couple went completely dark. For 90 days, there were no sightings, no statements, and no leaks. It was as if the entire world had been put on pause. What happened during those 90 days remains one of Hollywood's most closely guarded mysteries. The press speculated endlessly, fans tried to piece together hints, and insiders whispered about secret retreats and private meetings. But the truth is, very few people know the details, and what really took place behind closed doors is almost mythical in its discretion and purpose. From the accounts that have emerged, mostly from sources familiar with high-level contract negotiations, both parties entered the wellness period reluctantly. Frustration, tension, and years of unspoken grievances were inevitable at the start. But as the days unfolded, something remarkable happened. What began as awkward compliance slowly turned into uncomfortable but necessary honesty. During these 90 days, the couple reportedly engaged in conversations that had been long overdue. They discussed careers that had grown in different directions, emotional exhaustion from years of public scrutiny, the suffocating pressures of the spotlight, futures that no longer aligned, and the delicate challenge of balancing personal happiness with the expectations of fans, media, and colleagues. These discussions were not easy. They forced both individuals to confront truths they may have avoided for years. Was it painful? Absolutely. These were not casual talks over coffee. They were intense, emotionally charged sessions that peeled back layers of frustration, fear, and regret. But was it transformative? Even more so. The wellness period wasn't intended to save the marriage. Its purpose was far more profound, to ensure that the divorce didn't destroy the people involved in the process. By the end of the 90 days, both sides reportedly emerged with a clarity that few in Hollywood ever experience during such high-profile separations. There was no bitterness, no vendetta, and no dramatic revenge plot. Instead, there was a mutual understanding that allowed them to proceed with dignity and fairness. That clarity became the foundation for a settlement that would eventually total an estimated $525 million in combined assets, properties, and shared stakes. The clause didn't prevent the divorce, but it prevented the war, the public spectacle, the media frenzy, and the personal destruction that often accompany celebrity separations. It allowed both individuals to navigate the end of their marriage in a way that prioritized their well-being, their privacy, and, perhaps most importantly, their humanity. In a world where Hollywood divorces often play out like blockbuster dramas, filled with lawsuits, leaked text messages, and media stunts, this clause and the resulting 90-day period stood as an anomaly. It quietly shifted the focus from money and spectacle to emotional responsibility, personal accountability, and mutual respect. And in doing so, it left everyone watching with a new perspective. Even in the glitz and chaos of celebrity life, compassion and clarity can exist, even amid one of the most high-stakes divorces in history. The result? A settlement that was not only financially monumental but emotionally balanced, a rare victory in a world where celebrity breakups almost always leave a trail of destruction behind them. So why is Hollywood and the world still whispering about Nicole Kidman's contract twist? Why does a clause buried in a legal document from years ago suddenly dominate conversations about celebrity life, divorce, and emotional intelligence? The answer lies not in scandal, nor in money, nor in legal maneuvering. It lies in humanity. When Nicole finally opened up about the divorce and the emotional toll it took, she didn't turn the story into gossip. She didn't launch a public attack. She didn't call anyone out or feed into tabloid speculation. Instead, She spoke with a rare honesty about something almost everyone experiences in private: the reality that relationships end. People, no matter how successful, talented, or famous, sometimes grow in different directions. Priorities change, paths diverge, and love, no matter how deep, sometimes cannot withstand the pressure of life's twists and turns. Nicole's acknowledgement was simple, yet profound. She reminded the world that there is real courage in walking away with dignity rather than destruction. In a society that often glorifies conflict and revenge, choosing respect, clarity, and humanity is revolutionary. That is exactly what her stability clause represented. Once a quiet footnote in a dense legal document, it became a symbol of something Hollywood rarely discusses: emotional accountability. It wasn't about who gets what or who was right or wrong. It was about handling the ending of a relationship responsibly, thoughtfully, and with awareness of its emotional impact on everyone involved. It emphasized respectful separation and the idea that legal and financial settlements, while important, are not the only measure of success in a breakup. In a world obsessed with fame, fortune, and power, this clause highlighted humanity beneath the glamour. This legal provision, and Nicole's eventual openness about it, didn't define who she became. It revealed who she already was: strong, reflective, and unafraid to embrace vulnerability. It showed a side of her that the public rarely sees: the wisdom to recognize when it's time to let go, the maturity to protect emotional well-being, and the strength to handle high-stakes personal matters with grace and dignity. And maybe that's why this story continues to fascinate everyone today. It isn't because of the staggering $525 million involved. It isn't because of the contract itself. It's because it reflects something much more universal. Even in a world defined by wealth, influence, and image, the most valuable qualities remain compassion, empathy, and integrity. Nicole's story reminds us that endings don't have to be messy, bitter, or humiliating. That even the most high-profile divorces, the ones played out under relentless media scrutiny, can be handled in a way that respects all parties involved. It's a lesson not just for celebrities, but for everyone. Sometimes the true measure of strength is not holding on, but knowing when to let go with kindness. In the glitzy, chaotic, and often ruthless world of Hollywood, this quiet act of humanity, embodied in a single contract clause, stands out as extraordinary. It is proof that even behind the lights, cameras, and fame, emotional intelligence and compassion are still the most powerful forces of all. And that, perhaps, is the real reason everyone is still talking about Nicole Kidman's divorce. Not the money, not the headlines, but the reminder that even in the most glamorous, high-stakes worlds, kindness and clarity remain priceless.